Greetings, Jellyspoons! Welcome to another Monday Madness video. I'm actually up here, live. Hello, I'm in this one as opposed to just a voiceover of myself. Today I'm going to be doing a D&D story time, so if you're interested in the backstory of some characters, as a lot of you were in my Vampire Boy video, I'm not going to be talking about the Vampire Boy because his backstory is still non-committal at the moment, but I am going to tell the story of a character who I love very much and who I got to play to very nearly the end of a campaign. I am hot off just having filmed a bunch of John Sims from the Magnus Archives videos, so as you, I think I'm still in the same outfit. Yep, I do still have my fake tape recorder. So the makeup is interesting. I don't know if you can tell, I've still got I gave him like the worm scars on his neck. Still got, oh right, yeah, I didn't manage to clean that off. I've still got the cut on his neck. I'm gonna take you through it as a story, as it were. Some parts may get dramatic if I remember quotes that my character said, so be ready for that. But bearing all of that in your pretty little heads, here is the story of my D&D character, Moxi Brethren, the Tiefling Paladin Pirate. So, Moxi Brethren is a pirate. He is a pirate by nature, he's a pirate by birth. He was born somewhere at sea, and he has spent his entire life travelling the seas with his piratical father. He never met his mother, she's completely out of the picture. He's not particularly sad about it, he never met her. I deliberately didn't give him an angsty backstory. I don't often do angsty backstories because I'd rather play through the angst as it happens in-game, as it will so often do. So he's a very happy-go-lucky guy. He is 27 years old, he is a tiefling like his father, he has sort of pale blue, seafoam blue skin, he's got dark blue horns, blue hair, blue eyes, very oceany, as you can probably tell, a bit like his dad. His dad was a darker shade of blue, but very similar, piratical, lives on the sea, and he has got a metal peg leg on his right leg where he had it blasted with a cannonball when he was younger. He did not care, I mean he cared at the time. At the time it really hurt. He thinks it adds to his really cool pirate aesthetic. He feels like he's cooler than his father because he has a metal piratical peg leg and it's got a claw as well. It's a pretty badass like metal leg, just like this big claw on the end. When I joined this D&D party, I joined late. I was invited to join because they wanted some extra players and they said that they needed healers and they'd quite like a paladin and would I be okay playing that? And I was like, yeah, sure, I don't really mind. I always ask before I go into a D&D group because although I know we could work with it, I really don't want to be like the fifth monk in the party, that kind of thing. So I said, well, what have you not got? Paladin. I was like, yeah, I can work with this, why not? So I sat down to make a character, and not gonna lie, I don't really play paladins. I always assumed paladins were boring. I was wrong. I always think, I don't like shields. I've never been a big fan of the shield and sword. That's not the kind of character I want to play. So I looked into paladins, and Moxie, and Moxie was like, the worst paladin ever. But I gave him the pirate backstory so that he was a pirate and he had all of those quirks and things, but he was a paladin, and I looked through all the deities and it took me a really long time to look through all these deities, but eventually I found one that I thought could work, and that was a deity called Soon. And I'm not going to go into the lore of Soon because I can't remember all of it, but basically the bits that I read, it was about sort of love and sort of spreading love and any variation on that you could care to think of, sort of, you know, very chill. And I thought, yeah, I can see how Moxie, the character I've envisioned, I can see how he might fall in with a deity like that. He is a pirate lad, so he will have spent quite a lot of time, what is the Soon loving way of saying, going to lots of brothels and banging anyone. That, I guess. We'll go with that. So I figured, yeah, at some point he'll have fallen in with her, and I also rolled for a few things on my backstory as well, because I didn't intend to use all of them, but I thought if they were quite cool, I'd use them, so I rolled through the book. One of the things I rolled was that he had an ex-lover, so someone out there in the world, he'd a broken heart, someone who was out there in the world. I put in that maybe 10 years ago when he was about 16, 17, he met somebody, and they fell in love, and they were together for like a few years, and then they just disappeared. You know, they weren't like attacked or killed or anything, he just woke up one morning and they weren't there anymore. And eventually that story will come back up again because I finished writing it just before my backstory arc came up, and I gave the DM this extra information, and the DM gave me one of those evil grins and went, I will use this. And I was like, oh. Yeah. I also decided that he is in quite a lot of trouble at various different places. He has been banned from several ports. The DM got to decide which ones those were. And because he has spent so much of his life at sea, whenever he comes on land, he just gets into the most ridiculous of scrapes. And he has a rap sheet that's ridiculously long. I gave his rap sheet to the DM along with his description and his backstory. I had a great amount of fun looking up all these different legal terms of things you could be arrested for, things you can get in trouble for, and so yeah, he had quite long. He is a scallywag, he is wanted posters, just yeah, completely ridiculous, completely ridiculous, but absolutely fun, and I was so looking forward to playing him, so here we go. This is the story of Moxi Brethren, the utterly ridiculous pirate. So first off, I guess I'll start with him meeting the party, or rather the party meeting him. The party, minus Moxie, were on their way to go somewhere overseas and do something, so they needed a ship. So, what did the DM do? Well, he had them come to the harbour and search for a ship, and only one captain was willing to take them to where they needed to go. That captain, ladies and gentlemen, Moxie's father, the pirate. But in order to take them and give them passage, the captain said, I need you to do something for me first. I sense a side quest. And what was that side quest? Well, he wanted the party to go and spring his son free from jail. Well, why don't you just do it yourself, the party asks. Because I have been getting Moxie out of trouble since the day he learned to walk, replied the pirate captain. His rap sheet's as long as my arm, and he rattled off several of the things Moxie had been in prison for. Just this time, there was about 10 of them. He's on his own this time, but I'd quite like him back, and if you guys can spring him out of jail, I will give you a free ride to where you need to go. So, they broke into the jail. Enter Moxie. Springing him free from jail was a fairly standard procedure. He was in the jail cell having a chat with some of the other prisoners, winding up a bunch of the guards. They'd taken away his leg. He was very unimpressed about that, but he had somehow managed to entertain himself by flirting with everyone and pissing everyone off. So the party came to free him, fought the way out, knocked out a bunch of guards, rescued him. At one point he got a piggyback from the barbarian, I think, had to carry his leg over his shoulder before he could reattach it. So the party get him back to the ship, he sees his dad. Hey dad, what's up? Moxie immediately just gets round the back of the head from his father. You're a scallywag, son, you're a reprobate, what are we gonna do with you? I don't know, dad, what are you gonna do with me? So they get on the ship, everything's going well. Until it is not going well anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna take a small cake break right now. Oh, hang on, I should probably show you this. So it was my birthday yesterday, and my wonderful friends, who I may have mentioned in several million other videos, Cat and Bro, hey Cat and Bro, they are in America and I'm in the UK, and they decided to send me a birthday present even though they did not have to. And so they sent me these like, I don't know what I'd call them, like jam jar cakes, I guess. And it's from a company called the Cuppy Hut. And it's so cool. Like, look, it's cake. You can't see. It's cake in a jam jar, and it's amazing and vegan, which is just incredibly insane. And this is my second one. They got me 3. And so I've been slowly working my way through them. So I'm gonna take a break and eat some cake, and I'll be right back. Also, just noticed that my spoiler alert for the end of the Magnus archives. Do not listen to the next 2 minutes. This is basically, I'm still in sort of half John Sims cosplay, and I've been cosplaying from the very end. I made my own audio, and I duetted someone else. It's all sad feels. And I used blood for it, and I don't know how well you can see that, but yeah, the blood is still there. So spoiler alert. For anyone who didn't want spoilers for the end of Magnus Archives and just sees all this blood, sorry. Side note, I love the ending. I think it was perfect and beautiful, and anyone who disagrees, you're entitled to your opinion. Magnus Archives spoilers over. 3, 2, 1, we're back in the game. So, trouble of course was only just around the corner. The party set off on the ship with Moxie and his father. The ship was called the Shade Wraith. Super cool name. Just saying, my dad has like the coolest pirate ship. They're sailing along towards their next destination, and then what should occur? The Kraken, of course! The Kraken came, attacked the boat, split it in half, and started pulling it under the water. No one survived except the party. Moxie had to watch his father sink away into the ocean. Yeah, within the first session of this new campaign, I've been sprung from jail, and then my entire world had just been torn apart. So funnily enough, Moxie decided to go adventuring with the party after that. Like, well, I guess I have nothing else in my life. I'm tagging along with you guys. So Moxie tagged along with the party, and I didn't want to lean too far into the, oh, my dad's dead, depressive, you know, I feel like that can get boring for other people, so I tried to have him not get over it quickly, but I tried to have him manage it well. So Moxie thought to himself that it's how his dad would have wanted to go, fighting a monster, and he went down with his ship. He always said he was the captain of his ship, he would go down with the ship, and he took a little bit of comfort in knowing that at least his dad did die how he would have chosen to. He missed him like crazy, but he took a tiny bit of comfort in that. So the party continued to adventure. We were quite low level at this point, so it was sort of, you know, minor encounters. But we were doing lots of, you know, party things, and the main plot was slowly starting to kick in a little bit, and we were meeting people. Everything was going on, and Moxie was just getting to grips with everybody, meeting everybody, slowly building a rapport with the rest of the group, and getting over the loss of his father. Oh yeah, hang on. I'm just gonna read you Moxie's rap sheet right now. And this is only the bits that I could remember. There's much more of it than this. Multiple counts of public indecency, cross-dressing, impersonating guards, 3 counts of breaking and entering, 48 counts of adultery, impersonating public figures, and many, many more. I think there was like damages to property. There was damages to public property, damages to private property, damages to a million different things. He sewed swear words into the back of some guards' uniforms at some point, so yeah, I just had a great time inventing all these wild adventures he'd been on. It was hilarious. And then the day came where it all started to go just a little bit downhill for Moxi Brethren. So the party had been adventuring for a while, and they came to another port town. They were taking some respite, we had some downtime, and as part of the downtime, Moxie decided to take a walk. He walked off by himself, and he sort of stood on the edge of the harbour, and he looked out at the sea, and he decided he was gonna climb a tree and try and get as high up as he could, and just look out across the ocean, feel the salt wind in his hair, and just think about his dad. And he was sort of sat there at the top, and he was sort of picturing himself in the rigging, sort of swaying with the tree, and just, it was a sort of bittersweet, happy moment. He was trying to remember his father. His father wasn't particularly religious or anything, and Moxie's relationship with Soon wasn't completely devout at this point. So he wasn't really sending up prayers or anything. He just wanted to remember his dad and have a private moment. It was just, it was an off-the-cuff thing that I thought, he can do that in his downtime. It would be quite sweet. He can just have a moment. And I naively thought, right, well, we'll pack off and we'll go to see someone else and what they're doing. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 the DM sticks with me. And what happened next? Yeah, was the turning point. So, Moxie's got his eyes closed, he's thinking about his dad, sitting in the tree, and he hears a voice. And the voice says his name. So Moxie's like opening his eyes. There's no one there, he's at the top of the tree. Soon? No. And then he hears, again, someone says his name. And it's a woman. And it sounds kind of warm, kind of familiar, but he does not recognize it. And then the voice comes back again and says, my darling boy. And then the world went dark, and Moxie is standing in nothingness, in just this black space, and he sees this woman walking towards him, and she is I can't remember if she was a devil or a demon, but for aesthetic reasons, if I say either. She looked like a tiefling, but she was more demonic. Quite tall, very beautiful, pale skin, long, pale horns, walking towards him, and he recognizes her from a photograph, very tiny photograph his father had in a locket. It was obviously lost when he died, and Moxie very vaguely remembers the sort of maybe one time his father ever mentioned his mother, showed him this picture in the locket, and that was it. And he just said that she wasn't around anymore, and that was it. And so this demon woman is walking towards him, and Moxie is going, Mom? I, as a player, was not expecting his mum to come up at all. I admit I had pulled an accidental Disney. I had just written the mother out so that this father and son could have their bonding relationship and be pirates together. I hadn't really thought about the mother. Sorry, it's the Peter Pan in me. I keep forgetting about mothers. She tells him that her and his dad had an agreement that if anything ever happened to his dad, she would step in and she would come and look after him and make sure he was okay. And Moxie is completely floored by this and doesn't really know what to do, but is very interested in having a family member again. At this point, the only family member he really has left is his aunt, which is his dad's sister, who he very rarely sees. She lives on land now. We saw her a bit as a kid. So still being quite wrapped up in the grief of his father and trying to move on, the prospect of an actual parent really just shot him through and made Moxie go, oh my god, yeah, I want my mom. Seriously, these cakes are so freaking good. A lot of cream. We did this magic trick where he'll be dead asleep. You open a packet of anything. You undo the lid of anything. He is up and awake and joosh! I like food too. Gimme. There's now a face at the door. Hello, doggy. Ugh. There you go. Starring Raw. Say hi. You are heavy. Ugh. I love you. Lie down. I remember there was one particular point where Moxie actually died. He was attacked. They were attacked by assassins in the middle of the night and I rolled horrendously. And Moxie did not wake up. He was probably passed out drunk and having had some very, very dodgy sex. So he did not wake up when he heard the door open or anything like that. He woke up when someone was kneeling over his chest with a knife and they said, it was sort of like a Lannister sends their regards moment where they said the name of the person who'd sent them and we all went, oh no. So he then got stabbed through the neck, bled out. Nobody noticed until the morning when they found his dead body in the bed. Woo! Quite a moment. But they did manage to revive him. The thing was that Moxie then called out to his mom and just sort of said, hey, Mom, I died. Didn't know if you noticed or not. And before he could finish, his mom came back and said, oh yes, I knew. Oh, okay. Were you gonna do anything about that? And she just said, no, it's not my place to interfere in your life and fix things for you. And he was like, oh, okay, well no, that's fair enough, I guess. Were you sad that I was dead? Of course I was. Oh, okay. That was the extent of the conversation. As the party continued to journey on and Moxie spoke to his mother more and more, his mother started to tell him about the deity that she served and sort of spreading hints that she thought that he would do very well if he sort of converted over to their way of thinking. The deity in question's name was Asmodeus. Moxie's mother served him in the Nine Hells and very much wanted her son to be as powerful and amazing as he possibly could be. And every time she spoke about it, she would phrase it as, I want what's best for you and you deserve it. Have you never wanted more power? And Moxie was thinking, well, if I had more power, I could have saved my dad. So maybe if I can get in with the right people, I could bring him back. Or I could stop it from happening to somebody else. And he was getting very entrenched in this and the mom was definitely playing him. I as a player knew it, Moxie did not. There was a point where she asked him to consider switching to her deity, to Asmodeus, and she hugged him for the first time and Moxie was completely taken in by this. Just, a parent is hugging him and showing him affection and saying, I think you could be more than this, you deserve to be more, you know, you could do all these things, I'm so proud of you. And he was completely taken in by that. And it was both challenging and not to play because sometimes it was just really funny. Particularly with the other players just being like, oh God, no! And I'm like, I'm sorry man, but he would so believe this. So that was quite funny for me, out of character. And just seeing how manipulative this person could be. I think the GM had fun playing my mom because she was really fun. So Moxie eventually got manipulated into considering it and he actually was trying to decide whether he would stay with Soon or switch allegiances and essentially join his mom. Fortunately for Moxie at this point, the party were going into a big city where another adventuring party was, and one member of this other adventuring party was his aunt. I genuinely feel really bad because I cannot remember Moxie's aunt's name. I can't find the notebook I used for this. I think her meaningful name was something like Serenity. That might be because I watched Firefly the other day. Yeah, I'll go with that. So for lack of another name, the aunt's name is Serenity. So Moxie's aunt was in an adventuring party and he knew her fairly well. The DM created this character. I really enjoyed it. She popped up and he said, oh, it's your aunt. And I was like, oh, cool. And the reason he hadn't seen her for very long was because he saw her quite a lot as a child. She'd come on the ship sometimes, but his dad was a pirate and she was not. So she checked in on him, but they drifted apart. She was a dad's sister, and turned out that his dad was born a noble into a noble family and turned his back on it to go and live a life of piracy. Moxie greatly appreciated this because the very idea of living like a noble makes him laugh. But his aunt actually stepped up and she went adventuring, was in the adventuring parties, but ultimately decided that she was going to step into the role of being this noble lady and she was going to marry somebody of noble birth, she was going to have children, all this, that and the other. But for now, she was in this adventuring party and kicking She asked. She was very cool, and Moxie thought she was very cool. Hadn't seen her for ages, so he was delighted to meet up with her again. His aunt warned him that the afterlife for Asmodeus worshippers was awful, that they would get dragged down into the 9 hell, they could get like turned into demon devil creatures, completely destroyed of their own selves, and that it was awful and horrible, and that he could just be used as part of Asmodeus's army. Moxie, of course, did not like the sound of that. That is not the cool, ever sailing the seas, piratical afterlife that he'd been imagining he was gonna get. And that was the first time he really just thought, hey, maybe I won't go with this Asmodeus. Maybe I just won't go with Asmodeus. Maybe I just won't do that. Moxie spoke to his mom again. And he said, hey, so I've been hearing all these things. I'm kind of worried about Asmodeus. Would you still love me? Would you still be my mom if I said no and stayed with the deity I'm with? And his mom said, yeah, of course I would. And Moxie believed her. And then his mom said that, but that's not what would happen to you. No. You would be on the path to becoming Asmodeus's solar. And Moxie didn't really know what that meant, so his mom told him a little bit. And she was very vague and specific with her word choice, and she said, you'll be like his right hand, you'd have all the power, you'll be completely your own free man to do what you wanted as long as you listen to Asmodeus, and you would have all of this power. And that was the word that really got Moxie in all of this, because he'd never really been power hungry. It all started with his mom, but the more she said it, the more he wanted it, and he wanted to please her and make her happy, but he also desperately wanted to do something. He wanted to be able to change the world. He was like, maybe I can. And so, after a little bit more umming and ahhing, Moxie agreed. He called out to his mom and he said, okay, I want to join you and Asmodeus. I will swear allegiance. I'll take Asmodeus as my deity. And that, my Jellyspoons, is how Moxi Brethren became an oathbreaker paladin for the first time in that campaign.